Would you do roll call, please?
Dana Menace,
Present.
Alan Franken,
Present?
Jonathan Montoya, Robert Witters,
Present.
Francino Martinez. She did shoot us an email letting us know that she would not be in.
Thank you. We have a quorum. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda. The agenda was sent out for review. Any additions or changes to the agenda?
I make a motion, we accept the agenda as written.
A motion by Bob,
I second it.
second by Dinah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. And we have the minutes of our October 16th meeting. I like other committee members do as well.
I would like to thank you for adding in the results of all the votes that we took. Not just who made motions and seconded, but what the result of the vote was. I think that makes the minutes complete. Thank you. And I will make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
All right, we have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Do we have any public input?
No public input, sir.
All right, first discussion item would be the October 23rd financial report. You Dominic at this time, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In our general fund for October 31st, 2023, we are at a deficit to date of $180,827. On our enterprise fund, we sit with a surplus to date of $402,972. On our recreation center, we have a deficit to date of $68,056. And our lodger's tax, we also have a deficit of $26,409. And in our cannabis, we have a surplus of $53,773.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a couple questions, please. Help my memory a little bit. On the recreation fund, are we planning to have a year-end deficit in that fund? I know there are prior year plus carry forwards that we could fund a deficit spending this year, but I didn't remember if we were planning to. Are we going to have a deficit at the end of this year? And
More than likely, yes, sir.
do you have a rough idea what that might be?
I'm shooting between 75 and 100,000.
Okay. All right.
Just
And
to
do
this-
you have any idea what the prior year carry forward is? Will it cover that? Will it cover 100,000 deficit?
Look. The rec center always just.
You just make a budget transfer for the, whatever it's in the negative, right?
Yes, they're running a deficit.
Right.
Sure. I think it's expected to.
So, yes, sir, right at the top of the top right-hand corner, got $78,000 in cash there. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing on your screens?
Yes, I see it now.
Oh.
Yeah, we have your
Yes.
statute there.
No,
So, it's only 78,000, the carry forward. I thought it was more. My impression was that we had, 2 years ago, we had a surplus 153,000. Do you remember how we ended last year?
so 152.
Okay, all right. And then, lodger's tax. We are also planning to spend a deficit there this year, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
And do you know what the carry forward for lodger's tax fund was at the beginning of this year?
$1.2.
Yeah, that feels about right. Okay, and then my last question is on the cannabis fund.
Yes, sir.
I know that the counselor, Montoya, has been asking about spending of that cannabis monies. And he was under the impression, I believe, and you were able to correct him on that some of the spending he thought was going to come out of the cannabis fund actually was designated to come out of the opioid settlement fund. Is that right? So right now, there is no current spending in the cannabis other than a little bit of administrative expense each month. Is that correct? Yeah. And how much was the opioid settlement for?
Last year we had a little over 207,000.
Again, please, 400?
207,000.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Just one question, Dominic
Yes, sir.
and Tim. Any extraneous things happen to kind of turn us negative in the general fund? And specifically, I know we had a payment, a large payment, I think October, that went out to the Acequias, like 1.5 million. Acequia,
1.2, yes, yes.
was that already booked as just a liability? It didn't affect budget?
And
Or
that was, no, we budgeted for it this year and that was out of the enterprise.
and that is fully paid now?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Going back to the recreation, how many transfers do you do in a year?
12.
12, you do every month? And the city wouldn't consider, because I'm sure that you probably have FTEs that are in that budget, just to carry them, because where are you making the transfer from? Operational?
General fund, yes.
Yeah. To transfer, okay, let's say you're saying that at the end of the year, you're in the negative, let's say you transferred 200,000,
Mhm.
more or less?
400.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I believe the
Actually-
transfers show up on the check register.
Budgeted was 420,686.
So you transfer 400 and some to the recreation.
Mhm.
Instead of doing the pay the FTEs out of the general fund. And that way you wouldn't have to do that, and that way it's not alarming to us by saying, well, it's in the negative. Well, it's always gonna be in the negative because we know that they don't generate enough income to carry the FTEs that are paid from that fund. And that's just food for thought, okay? When you're doing budget next year, and I don't know if you need approval from the council or but just transfer the employees and pay them out of your general fund, instead of just putting them in an account that's not self-sustaining.
Well,
That's
no,
just a recommendation.
just to me, this kind of shows how much of general fund monies we're having to put into recreation.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it would get kind of lost in the wash. I mean, one way or another, I think it needs to be allocated to recreation or paid directly out of recreation.
But you're just
So we
carrying a
know-
fund that doesn't sustain itself. Okay. In my, opinion, of course.
But do any of our funds sustain themselves except enterprise
They
funds?
They should.
General fund system, that's not-
Well, they all require
They should.
revenues from somewhere.
Sure.
Uh,
And you budget accordingly to whatever
Yeah.
you're bringing in, right? This one, to me, I just see it as a liability. You're having to feed it from another account to keep it going. That's just my personal opinion, but
Take it under advisement.
yes. Since
Okay.
we have a new
Yeah, no, absolutely.
ears in the room. Yeah.
And, Tim, I think that as you're looking at these things, and as you may be contemplating how you might show things to the councilors and the governing body and the mayor and the city manager, you might try to figure out a way to highlight that. Because I think maybe the rec fund is the only one that does not generate enough revenue to support itself. And I suspect the councilors know that. I don't know if they know how big the nut is that they're taking out of general fund to operate the rec fund.
It's a big chunk.
Yeah, and you said over 400,000, right? Yeah.
And if you go to historic data, how many years has this been happening? You're just
Consumption.
operating in the negative.
Right, it's in the conception.
Right.
It's like
Okay.
our golf carts across the street, same thing.
Sure. The value to the city and all these things is important. It has to be funded somehow.
Exactly.
It's not going to be funded by user fees on either of those cases.
Exactly.
So,
Yes, sir.
okay, I'm not positive we do this every time, but we will do it today. So we have no more questions on the finance report. So I go ahead and entertain a motion to recommend approval to the council.
I'll move for that motion.
And I'll second.
Motion by Bob and a second by Dinah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Now we have resolution 23-33.
I would like to request approval of resolution 23-33, a budget adjustment to the 23-24 fiscal year budget to include a revenue and expense increase to Fund 205, law enforcement and violent crime victim assistance, in the amount of $91,608. This was a grant that was applied for and received. Police department's still unsure if they're going to be able to use the funding because of the timing. However, it was for the revenue and expense increase in Fund 214, the street squad projects, for Chris Thorne's circle paving improvements in the amount of $200 million.
2 million.
2
I mean,
million.
200 million. 2 million. My apologies. And also a revenue increase to Fund 217, state legislative appropriations for Las Vegas park improvements in the amount of $25,408, and an expense increase in the amount of $20,722.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on
Yes.
that.
In the backup documentation you gave us on the $2 million one, I didn't understand it exactly. It was 1.8 million funding and then 200,000. And that almost sounded like a matching, but I don't think it is it? Or is it a matching?
It is a match. However, the streets department is applying for the match waiver.
Yeah, and they usually get those waivers when they do that? Okay, so, so if the waiver is granted, then the full 2 million would be paid for.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
That's it?
Okay, motion to recommend approval to council.
I make a motion.
And I'll second it.
Motion by Dinah, second by Bob. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. And now we have the check register.
May I ask a question? So how soon would this project start up at the Crestone Circle for the paving? Do they need to go out to bid and?
No, they've already done that. And,
Okay.
they're ready to start.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Wonderful, that's great news.
They have time before the cold weather?
Before the cold comes through, I doubt that, but.
So it'll sit there all winter.
No, don't say that. Our
Seems
neighborhood
like that's
sure
what they
could
do.
use it.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know it needs it bad.
There's
Yeah.
100 homes up there.
Yeah,
Oh, wow, really?
Yes, and the park came out so nice. And someone put the sign up that says Crestone Park out there too. I don't know,
Oh,
this
yeah?
is like in the
Oh.
last couple of weeks. But
all right. Item C would be the October check register.
I have a few questions on that,
Certainly.
Mr. Chairman.
I have 3 in particular. Pages 7 and 8 of the check register. It's a payment of $50 for cell phone stipends to Charles Griego. And my question there is, it comes from account 202, not the general fund, and and that's what? That's a lodger's tax account code, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'm assuming that's an allowable expense that can come out of lodger's tax. I'm assuming that Charles Griego's salary, though, comes out of the 101 general fund account. Is that right?
Charles is split 50-50 between community development and budget.
Yeah. Okay. But the $50 for cell phone is an allowable expense under lodger's tax. I don't know what rules there would be there. Okay. My next question is page 14. It's Charlie's Bakery and Cafe, and it's $3,142 plus for catering services for employee, and then it stops. What is that?
That was an employee appreciation that the city put on for staff. And it was funded through private donations. We reached out to our contractors, our engineers, everybody that we possibly could in order to provide a luncheon for all staffing.
Well,
I like the idea that the city is appreciating its employees, and it sounds even better if they were able to get private donations for that. So that sounds cool. All right. And my last question is page 36. It's Albert R. Sabino, and it's for $550. What is that for?
I believe that's music in the park. We'll get to that.
Yeah, it looks like he was one of the artists that presented in Music in the Parks. I thought that that actually was supposed to come out of lodger's tax. Am I misinformed?
No, these, music in the parks are coming out of the community development office.
So it's funded by the local fund, not lodger's tax monies?
General fund.
We're not, lodger's tax is more of a putting heads in beds type deal.
Yeah, I know it comes from the motel rooms expenditure. Oh, so you're saying that you can only use lodger's tax money on stuff that's for outsiders, so to speak?
Not so much for outsiders, but billboards, advertising,
Okay. All right,
anything that's gonna bring anybody in.
all right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are the questions I had.
I don't know if that would be outside lodger's tax to have music in the park. It does bring in people.
That's what I was gonna say. It sounds like it could
When
be an
my
allowance,
when my
but-
cousins did it, Bobby and Johnny Johnson, there was a dozen that came from Albuquerque and 2 or 3 from Denver, and they all stayed in local hotels to see, just to be there and see their friends and
Uh-huh.
do their gig, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a little family reunion for us. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so it does bring in people. Yeah.
So who makes the determination of what line item is like this expense?
Community development director and city manager.
They're the ones that make the determination as to where
I
you want
can
to,
definitely.
where
I
you want to
can-
pay it from.
Right, but I can definitely pose the question and.
No, I'm just saying it wouldn't be outside of either community development or lodger's tax.
Yeah.
I would say, or share.
In case you're trying to get rid of the money from lodger's tax.
Looking for uses,
Or, you know,
good
like
uses
say-
for it.
Yeah, because
They
Trying
have
to
a fair
spend it down.
surplus there. What did you say?
Right.
1.2 million prior
yeah.
year surpluses in that account, yeah.
Okay, any other questions on check register, AP? If there is no other business to come before the committee, we have our next meeting to be scheduled for December 18th, right here. You're not gonna retire from this?
No.
We're not gonna let you do that.
no, we
No.
won't.
Will we?
I think Mr.
She'll have
Witters
more
have
time.
asked me 2 or 3 times, are you going to retire from the committee too, Dinah? No, I'm not moving anywhere.
Right.
Stay put.
If there's no other business, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Bob and a second by Dinah. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned.
Yay.